Ladies and gentlemen, live from London, it's Plank of the Year with Mike Graham.
And here I am. Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Year. It's TalkTV, it's the festive season, and we've got an awful lot to get through in the next hour. Can you imagine how many planks there have been this year and how to fit them all into one little tiny space? We're going to do it with the help, I'm sure, of Jeremy Kyle and Esther Krakue, followed by James Whale and Alex Phillips with a very lovely pair of antlers on her head. I'm not quite sure why nobody else is wearing those, but there we are. This, of course, is the very expensively, slightly changed Plank of the Week plank, which has been changed to Plank of the Year, as you can now see. Obviously, it's temporary, that. We'll be able to take it off and use it again later on. Anyway, let's kick things off, Jeremy Kyle, shall we? With your first nomination, which is probably... I should point out, these two have won it the last 2 years. This would be the triple.
I said to my agent to say that if I don't get the ones that's going to win it, I ain't turning up. There you go. No surprise, Harry and Meghan. Where do you want me?
Anyone?
Alice. Good night. Where do you want me to start? Let me start. It was the 10th of January 2023 when Spare came out.
Was that when it came out?
The autobiography that caused him to row back on most of the things that he made public in the Oprah Winfrey interview.
What an awful start to the year.
Yes, a dreadful start. Your New Year's resolution is not to buy the worst novel ever written, although we'll talk Omid Scobie later. That came out. That was a flop, excuse the pun. Especially with your horny antlers. Then we had They Were Dropped by Netflix. That was crap. Then we had Spotify, the worst. That's gone.
And then they started calling them grifters at that point, didn't they?
Archie Wells in debt. Donations have dried up. He continues... Listen, I've made myself and my opinions well known over the last however long. The thing is for me, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, if you go to America because you don't want to be in the Goldfish Bowl, I take my hat off to you, absolutely fantastic. If your entire existence is spent slagging off the very thing you don't want to be part of, to me that doesn't make sense. Here's the thing about Harry and Meghan, right? As the British public have had a stomachful. They're not interested. They don't want them in this country. And somebody years ago said to me about Harry, it's all about her and he's been somewhat led by a part of whatever. I don't think it...
is the word
well, I've said it before and I get slagged off for saying this. 5 years, he'll be back in England with his ginger tail between his legs. She'll be in California with 2 kids trying for a film career.
How do you know he's got a ginger tail?
Well, because he's got ginger hair.
Everything else is ginger, as far as I know.
Anyway, that for me, they are everything. I'm sorry, as a royalist, that I hate. I think they are consistently plankish and I think they should walk it again.
Well, listen, it's a very good nomination. And, of course, things started to go wrong for them in America when, in America, people just made fun of them.
We want privacy! Hey, thanks for having us on the show.
It's so awesome to be here. It's great.
So let me start with you, Sam. You've lived a life with the royal family. You've had everything handed to you, but you say your life has been hard, and now you've written all about it in your new book, We Are Leaving! We'll go find some quiet place where we can be normal people. Come on, wife. We want privacy. We want privacy. We want privacy.
The phrase hypocrisy is well placed for those two. I personally, I can't have it. He'd walk away fine. Don't slag it off. They have all this thing. He made a call to his father. Every time they do anything, I think it's set out to cause as much misery to the royal family as possible. I think they deserve nothing from the British public. But James Whale, a broadcasting legend, disagrees completely, and we should listen to his side.
He's the last defender of these characters.
I'm not actually defending, and because Jeremy has actually let me borrow his dressing room, I can't be too harsh.
No.
There are so many important things in the world to talk about. Harry and Meghan are probably the least important to talk about. And I find the way that some of you love to get irate and upset about Harry and Meghan when there are so many important things to get upset about.
Do you know why it is, Jay? Because the royal family is one of the last bastions of what I believe this country is about, and I am sick and tired of them slagging it off.
I am more royal than you are.
Right, so how can you just... all right, no, I take that. But why are they making money slagging off something they don't believe in?
I don't think that is the case. I think they've probably been taken out of context. I think Harry has been trying to make inroads to come back. He can never, this is the thing, he can never not be Harry. So wherever he goes, unless he has plastic surgery or whatever, he's always going to be in the publicity, in the public eye. Now, if you imagine the way those 2 kids were brought up when their mother died, the way they had to walk behind the coffin And the way
That was
they
a long
were
time
thrust.
ago,
It was
though,
a long
James.
time ago, but people don't forget.
And what about William, then? How come he hasn't become a turncoat?
Well, William may have other problems in other ways, but we all have problems. And I think we should just, if we don't like them, and I have no feeling one way
Yeah.
or the other. He's a good polo player.
But I don't
Let's just ignore it.
write books
Ignore it.
about the problems that I've got. You don't write books about the problems that you've got. You don't.
I
you
agree.
don't,
Everyone's
you don't,
accusing
you know,
your family
sort
of being
slam the rest of
racist.
the members of your family.
Well, I don't think they did, and I don't think asking. No, I don't think so. If I had children who were, if I had a child who was marrying somebody of a different skin colour, I probably would talk within the family. I wonder what sort of.
I think
Well, I'll tell you what we're not
the way
going to
they
do,
said
right?
it-
Having said that we're not going to talk about this because it's too unimportant, we don't want to talk about it too much, but I want to show you, just before we leave Harry and Meghan, the other Family Guy clip, which is even funnier than the South Park one. Have a look.
Sir, your millions from Netflix for no one knows what.
Put it with the rest of them.
Babe, time to do our daily $250,000 sponsored Instagram post for Del Taco.
I shouldn't have left the made-up nonsense.
Never a truer word said in jest. You should never have left the made-up nonsense. Esther, let's have your first nomination.
Well, this is probably relevant because they're taking up a lot of resources, including media, police, and our own resources because they're gluing themselves to the M25 and Dartford Tunnel and the like. Just Stop
slag
Oil.
them off. by
Now,
all
Just Stop
means.
Oil are the biggest planks this year because they managed to convince the country to want to use more oil because
Yeah.
they're so annoying
Yeah.
and they're so off-putting and they are just a group of middle-class, unemployed, whinging individuals.
Unwashed.
That honestly, they have made their cause pointless and meaningless.
Yeah.
You have people that are genuinely care about the environment and climate change and all of that, and they just think, why are these people representing us?
Some of them are
Supposedly.
genuinely unhinged, right?
Oh, genuinely.
Here's one of them. Have a look at this.
I've got my grandson coming tonight. He's staying for the next 2 nights with Grandma and Grandad. And he told me when I saw him last week, the first thing he said to me was, Grandma, the fish in the pond are dying. He's 5. The fish in the pond are dying because it's too hot for them and they can't breathe. And I'm doing this for him.
I mean, sorry, I'm afraid some of these people are unhinged.
Sorry, the fish in the pond are dying.
Yeah.
Feed them, you stupid woman.
Well,
No,
apparently
apparently
it's too
no.
hot. Why
Apparently
did
it's
they
too
put-
hot.
why
I
did
don't
they
know where
put
she
ice
lives.
cubes
Does she
in
live in
the
the
pond?
Sudan or something?
Yeah, why did they put ice cubes
I
in the
was
pond?
concerned about the police lady's face.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think she has
looked
Botox.
completely unamused.
Here's the thing I think that you make a really salient point about with Just Stop Oil. If you are into saving the environment, for me, the next generation can do that. I've got enough kids. But here's what I would say is, I don't know any more. In fact, I probably know less about what the hell they stand for because of the way they ruin and interrupt other people's lives. And you say about ambulances and they go, oh, we haven't stopped an ambulance. Not only are they middle class, they're unwashed. None of them are ever out during half term because they're all in their villas in Mallorca.
Don't you have children? Don't you care about your children's future?
They can
Do
sort
you
that.
hate
I'm
your
60
children?
nearly, and I want to enjoy what time I've
But
got
this is
left.
the other thing. This is the other thing that I can sort of almost forgive the Hooray Henry types who get dropped off in the family Volvo and they come into London on the train and then they get arrested.
Hooray
and it's
Henry.
all terrible, yeah. But it's the old women like that and the old blokes. There's a load of old guys and women who have got nothing better to do and they've suddenly worked out, oh, I know, instead of doing Sudoku all day and waiting until I wet myself, I'll go and join Just Stop Oil.
What
That'd be
alarms me,
great.
they're all mentally unwell people. It's a congregation of the mentally unwell.
What
Yeah.
alarms me is most of these
Nutters,
people,
we call them.
most of these people seem to be teachers and doctors
Yeah.
and vicars, the exact people who are trusted to sign the back of your passport photo.
Vegetarians.
And they're all nutty, aren't they? They've all got
Yeah.
that mentally ill
Crazy.
short
So
fringe
I got off the tube. I
hair
told you
dye.
this at Earl's Court the other day. I was just merrily walking
should
down
have
the
come
road,
visit.
heading towards the hospital to meet my wife. And I saw this sort of commotion in the road, Mikey, and suddenly his voice went, Jezza, will you lie with us? No, I don't. Go away, you are. And
Lie
they
with
lied.
you?
They were lying in the road.
Why?
Because they're just... Get a job,
I
have
mean,
a bath,
yeah.
get out of my life.
Michael,
Yes.
what would you do if you come up to them lying in the road?
I'd
or
drive
standing-
over them.
Yeah.
I would literally drive
No,
over
you
them.
wouldn't.
We'll
I've got
probably
very
be
big
arrested
tyres.
for saying that, but just very slowly.
Very
No,
slowly.
no.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Without
blocking the
wishing
highway.
to cause them any pain.
And the police took far
Yeah.
too long to start reacting to them.
Yes.
Well, you know,
They are idiots.
people have been dragging them off the road.
Well, also, did you see that wonderful episode where they were down near the big Bibby Stockholm? Because for some
Yeah.
reason it wasn't Just Stop Oil now; it was just stop, putting migrants on a barge. And they stood in front of this lorry, this
And
coach,
yeah.
and the guy from the Home Office just kept going. and they all kept sort of lying down in front of it, and then he would come right on top of them and go, "Oh Christ, he's going to run us over!" They'd leap up and go and lie.
Do you remember
down
that
again.
footage from
Just
earlier
keep
in the
going.
year when that foreign police force, don't know, is just
I think they
dragged
were
over?
French, yeah.
And I don't like the French, but that's a way to do it. No, I don't like the French.
What have the French done to you?
Well, they've had 500 million quid to deal with the problem. They've then put back with us, which is called migration.
Here's one of the things that they did this year, which for me is absolutely reprehensible.
Women did not get the vote by voting. It is time for deeds and not words. It is time to just stop oil.
Politics is failing us.
Politics is failing us. He's the guy from Big Brother, isn't he? And now going into the Big Brother room.
Can somebody
He's
tell
going
me?
to tell us
Can
all
somebody
about
tell me-
why we should stop oil.
What does it mean?
What?
Just stop oil.
No,
It doesn't mean anything.
That's literally, they're like petulant children. That's literally what they want. Just stop oil. Just stop using oil in any
Yeah.
form.
Does that include like cooking oil?
What about
Olive oil?
reverse migration?
Olive
Why don't
oil?
we send them all to France?
Good idea.
Aviva are chucking back all their electric vehicles because they're no good.
Yes. Well, they're
gonna
refusing
go
to
back.
insure them.
They weigh a third more than
They're
normal
insu-
I
cars.
blame the French.
They're refusing to insure them. James, it's up to you now with the BBC.
Right, OK, well, that...
Who used to employ you, by the way?
I've worked for the BBC over the years, not very often.
Did you work for Aviva?
No,
No, the BBC.
Vauxhall
No,
Viva
no,
he
no.
had.
He worked for the BBC. Did you ever work for the BBC?
I've done shows for them.
Yeah,
I haven't got a hope.
I've never been
But-
employed by them.
That was quite some considerable time ago, and it was like being at school, so I didn't stay very long
No.
because they're patronising, miserable idiots, and I don't think they've changed anymore. And I'm at an age where I don't really care, so I don't want to ever do a program. I wanted to do Celebrity MasterChef,
Yeah.
but they didn't allow me because I sent in
Are you a
recipes.
good cook?
Well, that will have to be decided by them, but, I can do a mean plate of beans on toast.
Okay.
Yeah, without
More
any
than I can
problems.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the BBC have passed their sell-by date. They were only set up because the first ever radio station broadcasting organisation was commercial.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I didn't know
And then they decided, well, you won't actually make it commercially, so we'll do a licence fee.
Yes.
And that's how the BBC...
And now this year they're
actually-
putting it up by 10 quid, right?
Well, I'm not paying it. Arrest me. I'm not going to watch it illegally, by the way. I'm going to find ways around it. But I am not happy with the BBC.
No.
There are a bunch of people who are mostly not very talented.
No.
And I think they are
Champagne
definitely
socialists.
planks of the year. Exactly.
Yeah.
They go and have, they talk about our industry and all that rubbish.
Right.
We have a good time doing what we do.
We do.
And they sit in offices
I don't
having meetings about
I don't actually
nothing.
understand from a no, it's not even political, an economic point of view, business-wise. We work on channels, we've worked on channels where the quality of what you do then results in people buying adverts. It's like self-justification. Why am I paying 170 quid for stuff I don't want to watch? The world ain't going to end like that.
It's
the
a
world's going to end with it'll cost you a quid to watch anything.
If you didn't watch the BBC, you wouldn't really miss anything. No. There are lots of shows they used to do very well. Question of Sport, gone. Newsnight,
The thing
gone.
is, I think they think people will not cancel their license fee. Like they think, most people are so used to it that they will stop. But the
That's
reality
wrong.
is,
Well,
billions of people
I don't
have
own a
stopped.
TV for particularly that reason.
Yeah.
And the younger generation.
And the way
is
they come after the
unjustifiable.
older generation is disgusting. I think it should be the quality of what you want to watch. I think they're this massive, self-absorbed
They
unit
cannot
that thinks
come
it's
into
the best.
your house without a policeman and a warrant. So when they knock on the door...
Don't let them in.
Say, what do you want?
Yeah.
Oh, we're from licensing. Well, go away, get a warrant and come back.
Yeah.
I mean, peak BBC horror this year has to be the reporting of the Israel-Hamas conflict, right? When they did all those reports going, they bombed the hospital.
Yeah.
They didn't bomb
Jeremy
the hospital.
Bowen admitted that he
And
got
they
it wrong
were
and said
still-
he didn't regret it.
The one where Al Jazeera had done a written report saying that the IDF were going around using Arab translators to speak to people in the Al-Shifa hospital or whatever to sort of say, have you seen a terrorist? And the BBC somehow took that copy and turned it into, they were picking out the Arabs.
They were the only organisation...
I mean, that's just willful.
They were the only organisation not to call, of course, Hamas terrorists.
They still don't.
I had a stand-up row with a woman and threw her off breakfast.
No.
They're not terrorists. Yes, they are, love. They're terrorists. It was genocide.
Yeah.
We'll talk about everything else. What about the Gary Lineker thing? The BBC has cut it.
know.
They are so self-absorbed and so self-important, and they let people get away with it, and they expect us to pay 170 quid. We're not going to pay 170
I
quid.
once
That's right.
did. I once
The
did
tide
6
has
months.
turned, I think.
Yeah,
the tide has
I
turned.
agree.
And BBC...
Sorry, young people don't watch
No, they
TV
don't.
the way they used to.
No, they don't.
And so there's absolutely no reason to have...
No.
It's
Let's
a
have a look.
poll
Let's have a
tax.
look at a couple of clips. Here's how the BBC News Department treat their listeners and viewers.
Live from London, this is BBC News.
Yeah, if you're not going to do something that you don't want anybody to see, you don't really do it when you're on a live TV broadcast.
That's the most entertaining content they've made since 1997.
Yeah.
The most honest thing that's ever not gone out on the BBC.
But that's exactly what they think.
You know that what was it called? W8 or something? That comedy show where they'd all meet in meeting rooms named after Arab countries or it was all so.
Yeah.
It's just this self-absorbed rubbish. The BBC, isn't it?
Middle-class tosspots, as somebody would call them.
That's a really good description. I wouldn't have been that rude myself.
Yeah.
But
come on.
absolutely right.
Well, I think it's entirely straight. Now, how about this? Because what you've forgotten to mention is their obsession with climate change. Because they've got a climate editor, right?
And he's a
Justin
twit
Roat
as well.
Who's a complete twit.
Yeah.
And here's what he
I know
did.
you used a
Here's what he
rude
did
word then.
this summer. Have a look.
Go across into Italy, already very hot in Italy, but it's going to get hotter there. And then finally, it will end in Greece. All accentuated, exaggerated by the effects of climate change. Climate change is pushing temperatures up and making heat waves like this longer and more extreme.
Justin, here's what he did, right? He got on a plane. He flew to Alicante to tell us that it was getting hotter in Spain and then Italy and then Greece for the summer, which it does.
Do
But
they
you didn't actually have to take a plane to Alicante to do that.
Do they not
You could have just
understand?
done it from London.
Well, this is why I'm nominating them. They are a bunch of useless
I think it's a winner.
collectibles.
I think it could be a winner.
Did they all go to like the Robert Peston finishing school of looking like they've just been dragged out of a burning vehicle
Yeah.
and you're surprised to be on camera? I mean, what is that, man?
I know.
Wow.
But
I
this
know.
whole thing-
Unlike you, Alex, you've come prepared.
I worked for 6 months at the BBC
Yeah.
and it threw me into the arms of Nigel Farage. I
You
was
might
that
not be
you go.
surprised to
by
know
the
that I've never,
experience.
ever
come on,
been
you
asked to
enjoyed
work
it.
at
There's
the
the funny
BBC.
thing.
And I'm quite proud of that.
Well,
to be
you
fair.
know, funnily enough, the people that I did most of the BBC work for that I ever did was in BBC Scotland. And we're about to go to Scotland because you're going to nominate Nicola Sturgeon.
Oh, Nicola Sturgeon. I mean, she's the best person who's fallen from grace this year. Surely, 1 minute she is the queen of the whole of the UK.
Yeah.
If she says lockdown further, faster, harder, then, the UK government went like, oh, no, Nicola Sturgeon's doing it north of the border.
Right.
And, Nicola Sturgeon could literally sneeze onto a tampon and it's a headline. I don't know how, because, she's not really that
Are
interesting.
you sure
she's
that's
a very
Jimmy
boring
Cranky
person.
or Nicola Sturgeon there on the corner?
I got real trouble for calling her that horrible woman up north.
Yeah.
But what I love the most is her fall from grace was just such a beautiful
It was
farce.
delicious, wasn't it?
There was this sort of like Fred West tent of doom on her garden as they were digging up, Lord knows what, perhaps they were digging up a body to find out if it was male or female, because she clearly doesn't know the difference between that either.
Right.
Then, when they're looking at all the ill-gotten gains for sort of £600,000 having disappeared for Indie Ref 2, it's a motorhome.
Yeah.
A motorhome. If you're going to be corrupt, at least be like Silvia Berlusconi. Don't just buy a caravan.
Well, there's a
Have some
Jaguar now as well,
imagination.
apparently. There's a Jaguar now, very popular.
there
It
is
was one
a
of the
Jaguar
greatest
now.
moments of the year to see somebody who pontificated and passed judgment and tried to outdo the British government at every toss and turn during the pandemic. The greatest fall ever.
Yeah.
I mean, the woman...
And and here we've got the moment it happened because here it is. This is the moment she realised the game was up.
Trans women are women, but in the prison context, there is no automatic right for a trans woman.
So there are contexts where a trans woman is not a woman?
No, there is circumstances in which a trans woman will be housed in the male prison estate.
Is there any context in which a woman born as a woman will be housed in the male estate?
Look, we're talking here about trans women.
And I'm now asking about women born as women.
I don't think there are circumstances there, but...
So it's different for trans women?
Well, yes.
You could see in her brain was going...
It's malfunctioning.
What was the name of that thing in pink trousers?
Isla Bryson.
I mean, Isla Bryson...
Did you say thing?
Well, did you see the tight leggings?
Right.
I mean,
trolling
honest to
everybody with the package on the front of that thing outside court.
It was quite a small package, actually.
The most
It was-
important...
And everybody forgot that this person raped 2 women.
But the most important thing with this Nicola Sturgeon debacle is that none of them did any good for Scotland.
Absolutely
Scotland's
right.
gone down the pan.
It has.
They've now stuck the tax up to see if they can do it. The bloke who's now the leader opens his mouth and talks complete and utter shockingness.
And how much would you feel cheated? On a serious note, if you've been somebody in Scotland who'd paid you £5 to join the SNP and the belief that actually independence was going to happen, actually to line the pockets of her and a revolting husband, and I just thought it was amazing so judgmental and actually strip it down, finish.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all over. Yeah, no, listen, that means the time's up. So, we have these triggers on Plank of the Year, just so that we know what we're doing. Coming up in the next bit, I'm going to be talking about strikers, because there's been lots of them this year. Also, Sadiq Khan might get a mention, and some other politicians as well. This is Plank of the Year. Don't go anywhere. Well, it's pretty lively so far. Welcome back to Plank of the Year. This is where we look at all of the things that happened over the course of the year and decide who should win Plank of the Year. It's a very, very big trophy. And so far, we've got some great nominees. It's my turn now, and I'm going to nominate the strikers. And that means not just the NHS doctors' strike, not just the NHS nurses' strike, not just the NHS consultants' strike, but also the train strikes, the ASLEF people, the RMT people, the teachers. I'm just putting them all into one big bag and getting ready to chuck it in the river and go swim for your lives and see how you get on. But let's have a look, first of all, at some of the madness that's become sort of known now as propaganda from the NHS doctors. This is a particular NHS doctor telling Julia Hartley-Brewer that he couldn't afford lunch.
My wife is a gastroenterologist and she has to walk dogs as a second job. I've had to find an alternative income. I've had to skip meals between surgeries. Skip lunches because it's just unaffordable. This month I've had...
Sorry, do you mind me asking what you and your wife earn? If you don't want to answer, I completely understand. But, I mean, there are people who are on minimum wage who are able to afford lunch.
I mean, nonsense when they go, oh, we're so badly off. And in the end, he had to sort of confess that he was actually talking a load of old cobblers because he could actually afford to eat, and he is a surgeon.
That response
and
from
between
Julia
them,
was fantastic.
we worked out they had an income of somewhere around about 100,000 quid. Now, it's one thing to say we should get more money because we have a more important job than that kind of 50,000 would suggest. But to make out that you're starving, that you can't eat, he's obviously living in a pretty nice house.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty nice background behind him. And it was just absolute and utter rubbish. And again, as we speak, there's a 2-week doctor strike going on, disguised as a 3 and a 7 day. But it's basically all around Christmas, just before Christmas, just after Christmas. And they won't be working for 2 weeks.
And do you know the days that they've missed? They reckon 30,000 appointments a day will be missed. That's 1 million to the thing. Here's what I hear about it every single morning, right? You know, in real terms, since 2013, it's anti-Tory quite patently, whatever they say, 2013, with this, with that, with the other. I've got a theory about junior doctors as I have about dentists. If the NHS pays to train these people, I would make them sign a damn contract that says they have to stay for a minimum of 10 years, like dentists, before they go abroad. Here's the thing as well about the price thing at the moment. We gave nurses 5%, we gave consultants 13%, MPs are taking 7.1%. Across the board, there's your 7.1%, or do one. I don't understand. People will die because of these people.
Junior doctors have already got 12% of the pay rise. They've already had the biggest pay rise this year.
35%. Like, you're going to get that.
That's ridiculous. And 1 million appointments have been missed since last year.
But I think we need to remember, I mean, I'm in the hospital quite often.
Yeah, you are.
And the people who are having to pick up the slack, it's making their life really difficult.
Yeah.
And the doctors and the nurses I know and I meet, they would never go on strike.
No.
I mean, because people will die from it. And people who are in hospital now and want to be out for Christmas won't get out
be able to
because
get out.
these people outside. I think they should look for a different job.
Exactly
if
right.
They go on a strike,
there was a guy yesterday
who
qualified to be a doctor in June. He's only ever actually been on strike. He hasn't done any doctoring.
Do you not think...
And he put out a tweet saying how happy he was. Thanks God, thanks for the BMA. He said, I'm not going to have to work until the new year.
But if you look at nurses have settled, consultants have settled, even that ridiculous train man, you've got to look at the BMA and junior doctors and say, that is political. You are trying to bring down the Tory government without any shadow of a doubt.
No question. And most doctors are not even in the BMA. No. As James says, they don't strike. But let's not forget, there is another striking organisation that we should pay attention to. Have a look at Mick Lynch.
The unions came out onto the street and gave an impromptu press conference, I mean, TV footage, saying that the strike was going to continue.
OK, let's just pause. Hang on.
I mean, it's on video.
Now, Mick Lynch, excuse me.
Did he fold? Did he accept?
Yeah, the RMT have accepted after being on strike for most of the year. But we've still got ASLEF who are planning a load of strikes over the Christmas period.
They're appalling people. I just tell you,
most people who travel by train
at this time of year. And if you're, because any of us could, I'm too old now, could have been a train driver. You press a button, pull a lever.
I'll tell you what Mick Lynch has done. Absolutely advanced years the theory that self-drive trains are the answer to the
Bring them in now. They're available now.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing is, people have less sympathy for strikers. Obviously, there are gradations of sympathy. I think the lowest rate of public support for strikers are the university lecturers.
Yeah.
Because of the kind of students, graduates they're turning out.
And 17 weeks holiday a year.
Well, yeah, exactly. They have the lowest. I mean, I think the nurses' strike had the highest public support.
People
but
thought
university
the nurses
lecturers
had a case, right? But nobody else does.
Yeah.
I mean, the train driver's literally on 65 grand a year to do 4 days a week and drive one train a day. It's not difficult.
Well, I mean, some of the unions were saying that they were representing people that work at train stations, so like cleaners and all of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, but cleaning is not a highly paid job anyway.
How much do you think you should pay a cleaner? 100 grand?
Well, exactly.
Sorry, you're a cleaner. You know, I'm not nothing personal.
And
but,
this,
you know.
my friends, without wanting to get too political, is what might just happen if and when a Labour Party get into government.
Everybody gets 100
because
grand.
every single union will say, I want 35%.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the man that runs London. That's your next nomination.
Look at my neck.
It's another winner.
I spent a lot of time in black cabs.
All of these are winners, by the way.
I spent a lot of time in black cabs. Sadiq Khan has single-handedly destroyed London. You can't go fast enough to kill anything now. It's like Drakeford, isn't it?
Yeah.
20 miles an hour. I can't be convinced that 20 miles an hour is going to do anything.
No.
Sadiq Khan, ULEZ, it is beyond me, and I've done this many times, but here's the theory from Sadiq Khan. I'm so worried about pollution. I'm so worried about people dying. I don't want you to bring your diesel car into London.
No.
Stop.
Rubbish.
But if you give me £12.50, you can do what the hell you want.
Yeah.
I think the biggest hypocrite, I think when Boris Johnson stood aside in Uxbridge and Hillingdon and they gave the Labour Party a right bloody nose and said that ULEZ is ridiculous, I think it'll become an embarrassment. There is not one person, I cannot believe, by the way, that people are saying he can be re-elected. I think that camera could stand against Sadiq Khan. I think
it seems incredible.
I think he's one of those do-gooding, he's a bit like Burnham. Shut your mouth, you're ruining London.
He is ruining London. Let's have a look at his justification for why ULEZ is a good thing.
So who suffers the worst consequences of air quality and climate change? It's the poorest Londoners least likely to own a car. And by the way, not just an issue of social justice, an issue of racial justice. Black Londoners suffer the worst. Those who live near main roads, brackets tend to be BAME communities, black Asian minority, I think close brackets, suffer the worst air quality. So this actually is an issue of social justice and racial justice, but also half of Londoners don't own a car.
Brackets, close, BAME, close brackets.
Esther, close brackets, open
Exactly.
brackets, BAME people. Do you live near a main road?
He literally memorised his scripts. No, I don't.
Right, well then you don't fit in with the category.
Well, the thing is...
What's he talking about?
But there's been a lot of evidence to show that this actually doesn't do anything to improve London's air quality. And when the evidence was... I think it was published in The Telegraph as well, his office refused to
Whilst he arrives at every meeting in gas-guzzling 4 Range Rovers, the man is a complete sodding hypocrite.
He is. He also
interested
fiddled
in
the
power.
figures. He fiddled the figures.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Yes.
Alex would make a great mayor of London. She's been a politician.
Look at that.
You know, what about that?
The Atlas is really selling it.
And then we can be your advisors.
Oh, yeah, I would be a tyrant. I can think of all the things I'd do. Oh, London would come in for
That would be brilliant.
I'd like to be told
I'm seeing
off
a new
by
side.
it.
I'm seeing a new side to you with the Atlas. You know, you used to be becoming quite aggressive.
Would you give us all a job?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
You would be my
But hang
privy
on,
councillor.
James,
Excellent.
you were once nearly... you were fired once for recommending some people vote for somebody, weren't you?
Yeah, I had a little falling out with a boss where I worked at the time.
Yes.
Although it has to be said, Ofcom didn't ask for me to be fired at all. But there's some people you can work for and some people you can't.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. I don't disagree with you.
I also...
I do.
When the first mayor of... I don't think I've ever spoken about this, but I know Nigel quite well. And when they first decided to have a mayor of London, I was actually going to be the UKIP nomination for mayor of London. And I was thinking it was all a bit of a laugh, a bit of publicity, and I was being driven to news at 10 one evening. And my wife said, "You do realise they're taking you seriously. You do need to..." So then I decided
nice reminder.
not to.
Honestly, that is the greatest loss of all time. Imagine how good London would have been. The James Vale London.
What about Boris Johnson? Would he stand
Boris
again?
won.
I'd have him back as London Mayor in a heartbeat.
Right, Esther Krakue, what is your next nomination?
The Conservative Party.
Excellent.
The whole Conservative
All of them.
Party.
Just a lot of them.
I feel like this is a very opportune moment to say that it's the end of the year and the Tories have completely failed in their five-point plan. They haven't stopped the boats. NHS waiting lists are still obscene.
Yeah.
They halved inflation by doing absolutely nothing.
Well, they didn't actually halve it. It just got
it just went down. What else did they promise us? Growth, economic growth. Yeah, that didn't happen. We didn't go into a recession, so that's something.
Yeah, but just to remind you of Rishi's 5 pledges, here they are.
5 promises. We will halve inflation, grow the economy, reduce debt, cut waiting lists, and stop the boats. Those are the people's priorities. They are your government's priorities, and we will either have achieved them or not.
Reducing the debt. Well, they have.
So we'll either have
waiting lists
or not. When he said that, Alex, I thought, well, he's just opening himself up, isn't he?
We'll
either achieve them or not. Well, he hasn't.
Don't even get me started on the Conservative Party, because the fact that they can't seem to govern the country is bad enough. The fact they can't govern themselves is worse, because all we've seen for the last, 13 years is some mad performance art of, like, squabbling posh kids in a sixth form common room, having a debate about who's got the heart of the party, making their little factions, doing their little plots. It's like passing little notes around their little WhatsApp groups. Grow up! You're supposed to be running the country.
Zombie government.
Don't you think that some of the civil servants are making it very difficult, and some of the civil servants are actually... Can you sack a civil servant if you're a politician?
I'm with you. The civil service are utter dreck, and get rid of them as well. But the Conservative Party, I'm afraid, have no excuse, because one of them said, I think it might be Ian Duncan-Smith, the problem with most Conservative MPs is they don't know that they exist unless they're hearing themselves on the radio or in a newspaper column. Always having to throw in their two-bit, making their little plans. I've got to say this, running around.
I'm not going to stick up for the Conservative Party, but I will say this. I think that every single politician in this country needs to stop thinking about being re-elected after 5 years, and we need to start looking at whether it's migration or the NHS and have policies that are long thought through and might actually do something to improve this goddamn country.
But it shouldn't be a career. It should be.
Absolutely.
And you can only ever do 2 terms, and that's it.
Absolutely.
It's a vocation. You know, you sacrifice something for what you believe, and I certainly did when I decided, back when it was deeply unfashionable and I was got a fruitcake loon and a closet racist for wanting to leave the EU, I walked away from my journalism career to pursue that, and I did that with huge ramifications. I mean, you know, resurrected now, like old Lazarus here as well. But you know,
that's a bit harsh.
But you know,
But
you know, these people wouldn't give up anything. They all sit on boards of directorships. Half of them have been caught with their hand in the till.
Somebody once said to me, who will remain anonymous, Baroness Warsley, before she got done for expenses, she said to me, the problem is just when you get elected, you go into politics, you think you're going to change the world. The minute the machinations of Westminster, and God help you if you get into government, the machinations of Whitehall, you just end up agreeing with a 3-line whip or losing your seat. I don't see politicians wanting to get something done for the good long term of this country.
Then lose your seat then. I mean, show some spine. Do you know what I mean? Where's the method in these MPs?
That's it. Because the thing is, you'd have to say the only person that's actually managed to make anything happen in this country is Nigel Farage. Didn't have to get elected as an MP to do it. He just had to influence the Tory party. But there we are. Coming up, we're going to be looking at the old thin blue line. They haven't had a great year. And do you remember talking to Nigel Farage, that woman that used to run the bank? Remember her?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Don't forget, this is Plank of the Year. There's plenty more to come. Don't go away. Welcome back to Plank of the Year. James Whale is here. And James, before we get to your nomination, which is coming up next, and I believe it may have something to do with the police, the Polizei, we should be plugging that show that we did, which is going to be out, I think, on the 30th of December here on TalkTV.
My Epitaph.
Your Epitaph.
Yes.
Now, we filmed it on the basis that you might not be here.
Yeah.
But you are here, so we're very delighted that you are here.
Just here.
And somehow they've decided to play it anyway.
Well, I think that's very good.
It's a tribute to you.
That's very nice. Thank you very much indeed. There are people who still say, I don't believe he's got cancer. I think he's putting it on. I rather wish I was.
Yes.
I can assure you I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think it's something you'd pretend.
Am I allowed to say something?
Yeah, go on.
The greatest man and the reason that so many of us did this job. And absolutely, there should be a programme every day. This man is a legend.
Yes.
You are very sweet.
No, I'm not untruthful,
no, it's
mate.
true.
And I don't... Anybody that... you haven't got to do me a favour if anybody takes you on. I'll...
10 p.m. December the 30th.
No, I love you, man. You know I do.
10 p.m. December the 30th.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, but we're both in it anyway.
Why don't you get him to introduce it?
Well, we did discuss that.
I didn't think I'd be here, but I am. Just
here we go.
anyway.
Lifetime of Nighttime, it's called.
Yeah. Well done, James. Well,
well, we should look forward to it. Anyway, now, get stuck into the
right, whether
the
I'm
fuzz.
here next Christmas is very doubtful. But anyway, I've had a great life. Thank you all very much indeed, just in case. Okay.
All right.
You'll upset me now.
The police.
Yes.
Now, I am a supporter of law and order, and I'm a supporter of the police. What I am not a supporter of is wokery. I can't use that word. Wokery walliness.
Yes.
So we now have police officers who probably couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag, to use an analogy. We have police officers this tall. We have police officers this wide.
Right.
We have police officers who can hardly move. We have police officers who really don't know what the friggin' heck they're doing.
Right.
And it's about time. And it goes down to the management of the police.
Yeah.
And we've seen what some of the flipping chief constables do.
Well,
around
they're worse
the
than
country.
anything, aren't they, the chief constables?
We need tough police to make sure people behave, because law and order is, how many stabbings have there been
Broken down.
of kids in this country?
Yeah.
Lots in London, lots in Birmingham, Manchester, all over.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be worried about being caught. If I was to ring the police and say, I've just come home, I've been burgled, and they say, OK, well, we'll try and get somebody down there tomorrow, the day after or something.
Yeah.
If I say something really nasty on the media, they'll be round.
Oh, yeah. And there'll be 6 of them as well.
Yeah.
They're mob-handed.
Their priorities
My
are
favourite
not
call
right.
that I got, actually, I think it was this year, was from somebody who said, I came home one night, the house had been burgled, I called the police at 7:30. By 10:30, they'd rung me back to say they'd closed the case. And they hadn't even turned up. They just closed the case. They
I
said,
don't know
well,
about you lot, but when I was growing up, you were sort of frightened of the police.
Yeah.
There was something
Yeah.
about law and order, and you didn't want. I'm with you and Mikey. I think it's deplorable. Kids, there's no respect, and that is because the police spend so much time, I think, trying to be all things to all people, and they're not what they used to be.
Well, I mean, have a look at how they now police crowds. This is them during one of these pro-Palestinian marches.
Yo.
Don't like any more of them, all right? If we catch you with any more... No more.
He goes, if we catch you doing it anymore, and then he doesn't know what to say.
What about dragging him off the statue?
Well, how about bouncing his head off the bottom of the statue?
But
That's
why
what I'd
not
be doing.
turn him round like they do in the
Sorry.
movies?
I'm not sure that's
Push him
very
against the wall,
Is
get
that
his
illegal?
hands behind him, handcuff
yes.
him.
I'm not
take him-
saying when I'm mayor of London, it won't be illegal. Don't worry.
Is it because they're scared of retribution? James makes a great point. If some old lady gets burgled, she's getting no help. But if somebody calls somebody some disgusting name, 6 of them, it's not right.
Well, people now because they've got these ring bell doors, right? Or whatever you call
Ring
it. What do you call it?
doorbells.
Ring doorbells. There you go.
Drives me mad.
Yeah, but you can see everything that goes on, and people are putting these into the police all the time. Their cars are getting stolen, motorbikes are getting stolen. Guys are turning out in the middle of the night, just chainsawing their way through whatever it is they want, and just taking stuff.
Yeah.
And nobody gives a damn.
Lawless country.
Lawless Britain.
Well, I think the Metropolitan Police, the police all over the country...
not just
actually,
the Met, is
they
it?
should, no, it's not. And we should have one police force.
I think we should standardise practices and expectations.
Well, they're all as bad as each other, though,
You have some
aren't they?
constabularies that are actually doing really well, like in the
Are they?
north, for instance,
Yeah,
in
where?
Manchester.
Yeah, because they had special
No,
measures.
but Manchester were in special measures, though.
Exactly, and they have zero tolerance for the politics or the kind of virtue signaling nonsense. And then you have London,
but you've got
this
so many
bloated.
But you've got so many different levels.
institution.
You've got central government, you've got local government, you've got police and crime commissions, you've got mayors like bloody Andy Burnham and Sadiq Khan sticking their oar in. I think the police were supposed to be revered and frightened. Now they're just this.
Well, have a look at this
we've
next
got
clip.
politicians who are telling them to be very gentle, very nice, and everything.
Well, have a look at this next clip where somebody from the police actually has to be told and taught how to deal with somebody who's a miscreant. And this is an old guy who basically moves in. You can see what's happening here. The police guy's getting beaten up, right? And the police guy doesn't seem to know what to do. So this old guy comes over and decides to sort the character out. And the police is just standing by going, oh, is that how you do it?
Thanks very much. There you go.
Unbelievable.
Brilliant. He's on
Did
his
the
knees
police
now.
then nick the old guy by any
probably.
chance? Because that wouldn't
They probably did.
They probably arrested him
Actually,
instead of thanking
do
him.
they train the police properly anymore?
I don't
in
think they do.
self-defence
They
and-
talk about those training colleges like Hendon have gone.
Yeah.
All of that stuff, hasn't it?
So let's plank of the week or plank of the year, the police, until they get better, protect us and clean up the streets.
Yeah, that would be good.
Look at the graffiti all over
I
the
know.
country.
So it's absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Completely agree.
Alex, time for your Nigel Farage moment.
Every year we get some lovely neologisms, don't we, introduced into the vernacular of this country. And 2023 has been the introduction of the phrase debanking.
Debanking?
Debanking.
Yeah.
Because my old mucker, Nigel Farage, got debanked. Not because he didn't have enough cash in his account, like Alison Rose suggested, although who knows what he had in his account. But because, frankly, she just didn't like his politics. The board decided he just wasn't woke enough to have a bank account.
Yeah.
So when he turned around and said, look, why have you nicked my bank account off me? I think you should publish the minutes of that meeting. She goes and sits next to Simon Jack, the BBC business editor, at some fancy-pantsy dinner and goes, oh, no, it's commercial reasons. It's because he only had this much in his account. So Simon Jack goes, OK, this has become a story. I'm going to say this on the news. So he phones her up and goes, yo, Alison, just verifying what you said to me at that dinner, yeah? And she goes, yeah, that's what I said. So Simon Jack goes on the radio and says, well, you know, the statement from that West has been that it's because of commercial... Then Alison Rose is Egypt, or just malign, horrible, malignant, or witch, decides to say, I didn't say that. I didn't give away this information.
Yeah.
Stop lying. Stop digging yourself into a hole. And what's even worse about all of this is don't forget that the UK taxpayer owns about 38% of this bank, right? We bailed them out.
Right.
It used to be a lot more. Thankfully, it's a bit less. But as a result of all the shenanigans and lies and fibbing and data breaches, it wiped the share price of NatWest of £770 million, which, as a result, cost us, the UK taxpayer, 300 million quid.
She gets another
The only good thing is that she doesn't get as much of a bonus.
She lost her money.
Well,
she was going to get. But
she's not going to get 7.6 million. She's still going to pocket 2.4 million. So she's not exactly, you know, with that doctor down the food bank.
Well, let's have a look at Nigel Farage himself explaining to Julia Hartley-Brewer what happened.
Dame Rose thinks she can be a moral arbiter. She can use her power and position to socially engineer the country. She needs to be called before a parliamentary committee, PDQ.
PDQ. You don't hear that very often.
No, pretty damn quick.
Pretty damn quick.
What's amazing about this story, one man and his bank account, is he managed to stretch that thing for months, didn't he?
But wasn't the most amazing thing about it was that Coutts, which is the sort of private banking side of the NatWest group, had become so woke. Because people had said to me, they walked into, you know, famously there's a branch in the Strand, and you walk in there, and it's all rainbow colours everywhere, and it's all kind of, you know, Pride Week, and it's not what you would regard
Do we
as what
take
you
it
would
from
normally
this?
see.
You have an account there?
I don't actually. I'm one of the few people who doesn't have an account. No. Funnily enough, one of the funny things that I discovered...
You all right?
One of the funny things that I discovered was the number of people that I know that do have accounts there. Not mentioning any names, obviously.
I think you might go.
Some people in this building.
Yeah, I'm sure there are, but don't look at me.
Outside,
I haven't.
yes.
I mean,
but I'm not
what I
one of them.
worry about is that she will get another job in another bank.
Well, let's hope not. We should debank Dame Alison
Kiss
Rose.
from a rose on a grave.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
That'll see it.
Yeah.
You're a bit macabre this evening, aren't you? She is, but it's those horns. You know,
You
the
hear
devil
what
horns.
I said? That will seal it. She got it, nobody else.
I got it. I did.
Sorry.
I laughed
Kiss
this
from a-
side.
Yeah.
Kissing the rose.
Yeah, sorry. Very good. Modern pop music icons coming up. Not off. Coming up next is a real plank. And this one could really be the winner, I promise you. And it's coming from me. Don't go away. Welcome back to the final part of Plank of the Year. It's been an amazing show so far because I think almost every nominee has a chance of winning. And they probably have won it at some point over the course of the last year, 2023. But I'm coming in on the sort of under the radar with my final nomination. And it is the one and only Guardian columnist and raconteur Owen Jones. A man who probably can be responsible, or we can say was responsible for the most viral clip of the entire year that we had. And this was, of course, after he and many other people were shown the terrible, terrible video footage from October the 7th. He decided that there wasn't enough evidence in the footage that he had seen to prove that horrible things had happened. Have a look at this.
If living people were beheaded, otherwise, we are not shown that in any of the video footage. If there was torture too, there's no evidence given for it on camera. Now, if there was rape and sexual violence committed, we don't see this on the footage either. Now, a warning here for deeply distressing description, but a clip of an Israeli woman inspecting a badly burned woman's corpse to see if she was a relative she had no underwear. This has been offered as evidence of rape, but that's not what you would consider conclusive evidence. We don't see children being killed.
It's hard to imagine anybody thinking those words, never mind actually saying them and then saying them in front of a camera. And I don't want to get into the ins and outs of the horror because it's too horrible. But for any one individual to look at what he's just described and to come to those conclusions that basically there's not really any real evidence that children were tortured or raped or burned, and it's not really good enough, which is kind of what he was saying. Beggars belief, doesn't it?
I literally have to tell you, and this tells you how little I know, I've not seen that. I am gobsmacked.
Yeah.
Whoever employs that...
The Guardian.
Whoever employs that should do something about it. How utterly, utterly, utterly disrespectful to a Jewish nation, you absolute... That's done me. What an imbecile he is.
Yeah. What I can't stand is people like Owen Jones and people on the extreme left are the ones peddling conspiracy theories. They're the ones with the divisive rhetoric. They're the ones who hate everybody and everything. And especially the vast majority of ordinary men and women out there with very normal, centre-of-the-road opinions. They are the people who are bitter and twisted and divisive and have the audacity...
It was genocide. How dare he say that?
...to point the finger at the rest of us and say it's us.
Yeah.
And then the other media stations queue up to platform that character.
That should be taken off
It's just
anywhere,
incredible that you would even, as I say, think those things, having seen what we've all seen.
That man should not be anywhere. I am
It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. We've got to get to the end because that is the end of the Plank of the Year show. And so now we have to slightly reconsider some of the nominees, right? And we have to think. I think Sadiq Khan has to be in the final three. I think the BBC have to be in the final three. I mean, Harry and Meghan have won it the last 2 years.
Much as I don't like to
I don't want to give it to them.
Owen Jones.
I don't want to give it to him.
I'm amazed about that last bit. I'm with him. I think
the Tories are in there as well. I don't want to give him the recognition. I mean, I want him to be in the list, but I don't want to give him the recognition. But we could. You want to give him? You want to give it to Owen Jones?
Yeah. I think it's between the police and Owen Jones.
The police and Owen Jones. I want to give it to Sadiq Khan or the BBC.
I want to give it to the Tories.
You want to give it to the Tories? Nobody knows. This is why I have to decide. All right, I'm going to say it's the BBC. Planks of the Year, absolutely useless. Here it is, Plank of the Year, the BBC. Thank you to Jeremy Kyle. Thank you to Esther Krakue. Thank you to, of course, James Well and Alex Phillips. And you managed to keep those on the whole way through. We'll be back next Friday, and it will be the new year, and there'll be some new planks. But we will, of course, be true to our word. We are TalkTV, the only place to hear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. What on earth is going on?
Look, I'm getting ready for my new primetime show on TalkTV and radio, 7 o'clock Saturday night, James Whale Unleash. I don't need you coming in here, following me around with a camera. I'm so sorry about this.
Saturdays at 7 on TalkTV.